if the Heat make the playoffs, then the Thunder get unprotected Heat pick next year. So if they trade Jimmy towards the end of the trade deadline and sneak into the playoffs, Thunder can get even better.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams. And on today's Wind Up Wednesday edition, segment 1, NBA, we're going to introduce our audience to teams you should be following, especially after Christmas Day, getting excited about 7th and 10th place teams going head at it. In segment 2, we're going to talk about Coach Larrañaga. Jim Larrañaga, Coach L to us, has walked exit stage left. We'll talk about his career and his rationale. And in segment 3, we want to introduce you to some of the women's teams and the players you should follow. But let's get started. Segment 1, Eastern Conference. 1, Cleveland. 2, Boston. 3, Knicks. Going to overtime against the Wizards. 4, Magic. 5, Bucks. And 6, Heat. Pat Riley has spoken, but I think he might be telling a fib. On the outside looking in, we've got the Hawks, the Pacers, the Bulls, the Pistons. Will anything in the East catch your eye, Captain for life, sir?
Man, the Knicks, the Cleveland, the Knicks, the Cavs, and the Celtics, man, playing very good. The Knicks, they really won that trade with Julius Randle. I think I'm sure you guys have talked about it on previous shows, but man, they really showed the difference between the Knicks and the Wolves. And I'm glad that nobody mentioned the Wizards because they're pretty much like a D3 team right now. And and how do they beat the Knicks? Because the Knicks try new things. It's like a practice. Like run this, try this, just try this lineup. See how does this work with this? Hey, Cat, see, run this play. See if it works with that. Try this. And they lost. And they're like, whatever. Nobody got hurt, so keep moving. But yeah, everything looks good. I think the Heat are going to be out of 6 at some point when they trade Jimmy. But
Pat Riley said they're not going to trade him.
I mean, Pat Riley says a lot of things. I feel him.
Okay. Mike King, anything in the East this week, sir?
Well, first, if the Heat make the playoffs, then the Thunder get unprotected Heat pick next year. So if they trade Jimmy towards the end of the trade deadline and sneak into the playoffs, Thunder can get even better. Knicks are not a threat. I don't care where Knicks are a joke. Cleveland, I'm actually starting to believe might legitimately be number 1 and Boston number 2. This is the first time all season. I think I'll say that Cleveland deserves to be 1, Boston 2. I'm putting the Magic at 3 because I know how they're playing without half their team. So when they get their guys back, Magic are legitimately as scary as a 3. I would say if they played Boston or Cleveland in the first round, whoever they play in the first round, I think is going to be scared of the Magic. Or I should say in the second round. Bucks. I mean, the Bucks. They're such a Jekyll and Hyde team, but they have
the NBA Cup champion.
They are the NBA Cup champion. They are, so I'll give them credit. And if the Heat are your 6th best team in a conference, then the conference is not that deep or serious.
Not good at all.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move to the West. Number 1, OKC. Number 2, Houston. 3, Memphis. 4, Dallas. 5, Denver. 6, the Clippers, and on the outside looking in, Lakers, Warriors, Spurs, and Minnesota. Mike King, anything catch your eye in the West this week?
I mean, for me, it's going to be all OKC just because, 10 wins in a row. Now, they are getting a lot of teams with some injury issues, so they haven't – and they get the Grizz without Ja next game, so that's not really going to tell you anything. So they haven't been challenged too much recently since they played probably Houston. But I will say, when they have a center in their lineup, they are 22-2 this year. So they had 1 loss with Chet, they had 1 loss with Hartenstein, and they have 3 losses with either neither or when Chet got hurt in the beginning of that game against the Warriors. So with the center, they are 22-2. They got a 2nd-round pick this year, AJ Mitchell, who's, again, if there was a redraft, would be probably top 5 because this was a kind of weak draft. People forget their first-round pick. They had 2 first-round picks. Besides this guy who's actually better than the other 2. But they got that guy, Topic, who was potentially a top 2 or 3 pick in the draft, and he tore his ACL. They got that guy getting healthy. It's such an embarrassment of riches. People keep criticizing them for drafting these guards, but every guard they draft becomes great. I love Casey Wallace. He's probably my favorite of the guys you've never heard of on the team just because he comes in and he plays defense just as good as Lou Dort. Also hits threes, and he plays like 15, 16 minutes because that's all they need from him. But on most teams, he'd be one of your better three players on a team. Like they're so deep, so loaded. I like this team better than the Westbrook Thunder or Westbrook Durant Harden Thunder teams. So much
All
better.
right. Cotton Man, anything in the West catch your eye?
Oh man, you can't miss OKC, man. I mean, these dudes are not only doing it on the floor, but like Mike King says, they're all setting it up on the back end. So they're really creating up that long-term sort of really good team. And I hope Will Dawkins takes some of that formula chemistry to the Wizards, because I would love to run into them in the championship at some point down the line. Maybe we're in our 50s, Mike. Hopefully that happens.
When the Thunder and the old heads, the Wizards and the young
Hey
guys.
man, we'll bring it back, man. We'll bring it back. But everything else is looking good. I love that the West look good because everyone's young. I mean, you're really getting those young legs, man. I mean, OKC has young legs, Memphis has young legs, Houston has young legs. Dallas, for the most part, has young legs. I think the oldest person is like Kyrie, and Kyrie is but like 30. He's younger than
Clay's
me.
old too, right?
Oh yeah, well Clay don't. I mean, Clay's like one of those like show horses. Like, okay, we're up 15. Hey, get on out there, Clay. Get out there,
Yes.
horse.
So
Clippers. I don't. I
Kawhi
don't
might
know how
play.
he's
I
doing
heard
it.
Kawhi might come back.
I don't know how he's doing it. But Harden is keeping them afloat, man. And he may not be the playoff guy. He may not be the guy to get you to the chip. But man, he has them looking relevant. I'm not saying, and if Kawhi can show up and actually show up and play a little bit, maybe they can hold on to that sixth seed and maybe go to fifth. It'd be hard to go up further. And then let's talk about the Nuggets. Good God, like what? I mean, you need stars.
That's
You
what
need
happens
look.
when you become cheap in the NBA, trying to win on a budget.
Oh, well, everybody else is on board except for everybody else. Jamal Murray seems to be cooling. You know, they lost KCP, which is a great part of that. I think Mike Porter Jr., I think he's still kind of following some things that's going on with his brothers. I think they're all getting locked up to the federal system now. So I know that it's got to affect you. I know if it was me, it would affect me and my day-to-day, job, things like that. I've never seen such a, for a team that's relatively healthy, I've never seen a team fall off the cliff, and they're not like they're old. Nobody. I'm like, man, what the? I don't know. I can't explain. The Nuggets are going to have to search deep down and figure out what's going on. But you can't be worse than the Lakers. You can't be. You can't.
All right. So our story of the week. Now we care. Post Christmas, we are over 30 games into the NBA season. So let the Odd Coaches podcast introduce you to the teams you actually need to follow. And most of them didn't play on Christmas. In the Eastern Conference, we've been talking about Cleveland. Let's introduce you to Cleveland. Their coach is Kenny Atkinson, who's on his second head coaching gig. So now he knows what to do. You got a difference maker in Donovan Mitchell. Your primary players are Jared Allen and Darius Garland, and you've got secondary players, Evan Mobley, Karis LeVert, and George Niang, okay? You got 6 guys averaging double figures, 11 guys average more than 15 minutes a game. They've been a very dominant home team. They've been a dominant road team. Their scoring differential is plus 10. That means they're beating teams by an average of 10 points. They know their role, and they shut their mouths. And they shoot 77% as a team from the free throw line. What does this mean? The league's in trouble. That's what it means. Mike King, any thoughts about Cleveland?
I mean, I think when your best players are your point guard and your shooting guard, you're in good position. And it's not like the other guys are bums. So you got the backcourt that could go deep. Again, beginning of the year was a nice story, and now it's like, geez, they keep doing it. So I'm in. I think they're the favorite in the East.
All right, let's introduce you to Orlando. Their coach is Jamal Mosley. The difference maker is Paolo Banchero, who is out. Their primary player is Franz Wagner, and their secondary players, Jalen Suggs, Goga Bayetsi, Anthony Black, and KCP, Kentavious Caldwell Pope. They've got 4 guys that average in double figures. They do lack a consistent secondary scorer. Losing Mo Wagner is a big deal. They're not a good road team. They're not an elite defensive team, but they shoot 79% from the free throw line. What does that mean? It means they're going to be a tough out in the first round, but they're going to have trouble making it to the finals. Will, any thoughts about Orlando?
I love Banchero. They're young. They're young. I think they're 1 or 2 steps or seasons, I should say, behind OKC. They have a lot of good young legs. They have a lot of good. Banchero is an amazing player. He's one of those few players that you get in the NBA who can actually shoot, pass, drive the lane, play defense. He's like a mini LeBron. I'll never give people and say you're like LeBron. He's a very mini. He does LeBron-ish things. He does a lot of the things. That's going to help them out, man. That's going to help them out. But like you said, Coach, when you're not good on the road, when you're not good elite defensively, you're going to struggle in the playoffs. And I think you're correct. There'll be a tough out. Depending on who they go against, they won't be able to knock anybody out because they don't play elite defense and they don't play on the road. But watch out, and it's still early, so they can still grow into those, defensive roles and, figure out what they're going to happen, things like that, and improve their defensive skills system. So a lot to come for them, but yeah, they're up and coming, man. I'd be excited. I would not want to play Orlando on the back half of the season's schedule.
All right, we're going to go to the West. We're going to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder, their coach. How do you pronounce that last name, King?
Mark Daigneault.
Okay, I'll let that happen. They have a difference maker in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They have primary players, Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, who's coming back after break, and they'll be able to ease him back in prior to the playoffs. They have very good secondary players in terms of Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso. Here's the thing, though. They're deep. They play well both at home and on the road. They have weathered injuries, and they will get Chet back after the All-Star break. They win games by an average of 12 points a game. And wait for it, fans, they shoot 81% from the free throw line as a team. What does this mean? The NBA is in trouble. Mike, as our resident Oklahoma City correspondent, any thoughts on OKC? Did I get it right, sir?
You got it pretty right. I would have said for the outlook, they're also like historically elite defensively. Not just they're a good defensive team. They're historically elite defensively. They're averaging more steals than they have turnovers, which I don't know if that's ever been done before.
It's not even something I would track as a coach. That's how good that is.
Their defense numbers take you back to like the 60s Celtics kind of teams. Like it's stuff that doesn't happen, especially in this era of offense. But what can stop them? Secondary scoring. When they shoot cold, they shoot cold. And as good as they are at the free throw line, even though they lead the league in drives to the basket, they are, I think, close to last in free throws. So Shai gets to the line, but Jalen Williams, as good as he is, and he's a guy who should be an all-star, but he doesn't get treated like one as from the refs, and it's been a big story that comes up in a lot of press conferences from the coach and from him about what he needs to do to get more free throws, because he's a really, really good player. He just doesn't have the respect that obviously Shai does. Shai gets to the line pretty often. But again, they're doing this without their maybe second best player, which doesn't happen. Like, you don't lose your second best player and you're 25-5 as a team. Like it's just not a thing. So when they get Chet back and they're able to have lineups where they can go too big, but have Chet who could defend 3-point shooters, or they can trade between the two of them. I mean, they could just be so such a matchup nightmare for everyone else. They can do everything. They can go 5 small. They can have 2 7-footers. They can split the two of them up. They just have so many options. Caruso's been hurt. When he's in there, he's an elite defender. It's just a lot of fun to watch. I just wish the NBA let people watch it.
All right, and Will, you got Houston. Their coach is Ime Udoka. Their difference maker is Ime Udoka. This is where elite coaching comes into play. Their primary players are Jalen Green, Alfred Sengun, thank you, and Fred VanVleet. They're secondary players. Dylan Brooks, who's a pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. And you need one pain in the ass. You don't need 5 of them. but he does a very good job at being a pain in the ass. Okay, Jabari Smith and it's Amen Thompson, right? It's not Amen, it's Amen.
Mhm.
So they're out.
Mhm.
Look, this is a team, guys. America, Houston's a team. Okay, every night somebody does something. There are no real difference makers, and I say that because there's no 20-point a game score. They've got 7 guys that average double figures, so it's really hard to key on anybody on the scouting report, and that's why Ime is a difference maker, because it's like he does compartmentalized scouting reports for every team. They're a very good home team and an above-average road team, and as a team, they shoot 77% from the free throw line. So what does this mean? They're going to make it past the first round, but they're going to struggle beyond the first round. Any thoughts, Will, about Houston?
Oh yeah, no problem. Last year I thought they were going to make a playoff team last year. I thought they were going to be good enough. While they're a team that's up and coming, they're kind of a year behind, to be honest with you. I thought they were going to be in the playoff last year, and they weren't. But with that said, they still need that alpha that's going to kind of put them over the top. And I think that guy could be Jimmy Butler. He's exactly what they could use. Oh yeah, they could definitely use a Jimmy Butler, a guy could, timely shots, strong. Unfortunately, you have Brooks coming off the bench. You have Jimmy starting. You come a lot stronger. Your lineup is deeper. You don't have to worry about things like that. Then you move up to 8 guys who average double figures, and that's exactly where you want to be for the playoffs. Like you said, Coach, you don't want to have 11, 12 people running. You want to have an 8 roster, an 18 roster, or 7 if you want to get better like that. So yeah, I think they're a year or two to really put that push into the playoffs. I think they could get past the first round. But yeah, beyond that, when you really need the alpha dog, when you really need that guy to make that SGA, you need that. So I think they're 1 year behind, but they're not behind like they should be. They're a good team, and they'll be, as long as Udoka can keep it in his pants and keep chilling and not have to mess around with nobody and just does his thing, they'll be good.
All right, so fans, in segment 2, we're going to talk the college game. Got a special guest I'm going to introduce when we get back, and we'll talk about Coach L leaving. We'll be right back on the iCoaches Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Safe Project, with a question for you. Are you passionate about supporting student athletes? If so, then become an official member of the CKA Safe Project and make a difference today. With your membership, you'll be able to help us provide essential academic and athletic support to underserved communities nationwide. Join us in empowering student athletes to achieve their full potential, both on and off the field. Together, we can build a brighter future through education and sports. Visit ckasafeproject.org and choose your membership level now. $25 is a bronze level membership, $50 is a silver level membership, and $100 is a gold level membership. Be a part of the change. Become a member of the CKA Safe Project today. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 2, men's college basketball. Net rankings: 1, Auburn; 2, Tennessee; 3, Duke; 4, Gonzaga; 5, Iowa State's playing very well. Top 5 mid-majors: Oregon State, Memphis, big win over Ole Miss yesterday. UC Irvine, Dayton, and Utah State. SEC continues to dominate. Mike, anybody catch your eye this week in men's college basketball?
My focus has been on Maryland just because that's my team. They're playing well, and this week they didn't have much. They've got Maryland Eastern Shore, but next week business starts to pick up. Their schedule next 4. If they're a real team, they got to win 3 of them. I think you got to start beating these some of these ranked teams. I'm not mad that they're not ranked because they're doing what Iowa State did last year. They're going for beat a lot of tier 4s by 50, and yeah, okay, you have a good net ranking. If people don't want to rank you because you're not beat anyone, that's fine by me. Now you got to prove it.
Okay. Cotton Man, anything catch your eye in men's basketball this week?
Oh, you know me. I'm like Mike King is the Terps. I'm looking at the Johnnies, man. Johnnies are 11-2, doing very well. This is uncharted territory for me. I'm not used to being 11-2 going into the conference.
Conference season.
Oh yeah, but they're playing well. Coach has them doing very well. Patino, they're doing what they're doing. The recruiting doing well. They lost a couple. Man, they could easily be 12-1 or undefeated. I think one of their losses is like a 2 overtime game versus like Georgia or something like that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of good parity. And shout out to Jamie Pollard, the AD of Iowa State, man. You got a good football team going, you got a good basketball team going, and very quietly you're just doing your thing. So shout out to that.
Both men's and women's are doing well at Iowa State.
So doing very well, doing his thing. Whatever he's doing, NIL, recruiting, whatever he's doing, keep doing it, man. These kids are happy, so keep doing it.
And Mike King, somewhere Kevin Monroe is smirking. And joining us this week for his not his maiden voyage. He was on a couple of years ago. Assistant men's basketball coach at Salisbury University in our fine old line state of Maryland, Sean Brown. Sean, anything catch your eye this week in men's basketball? And feel free to say your team did.
Well, Memphis. I'm not a big Memphis guy. But just kind of watching them, I watched like their last 3 games. Now they had a loss in between those 3, but they've been really impressive. I mean, you look at some of these scores, and they've had a really strong schedule thus far. They've really caught my eye. They got a guard that's scoring a ton of points, and it's like, man, like this kid's unstoppable. I mean, and they just smashed somebody, a really good team the other day by like 15-16, and it was it was amazing. Usually I love Houston. I'm a defensive guy. I love the way Houston play. I can't keep my eyes off of them. But yes, Memphis. Memphis has really caught my eye, and I think they could be a Sweet 16 team. I think they could be a Sweet 16 team.
All right.
I know it's a little early to start talking NCAA talk, but
that's all right, man.
The way they look, man. Woo.
Okay. So the story of the week, we lost a good Jim Larnaka stepped down as Miami's men's basketball coach. He was at Miami for 14 years, and prior to Miami, he was at George Mason, where is when I was introduced to Coach L, as we call him. He turned 75 in October, and he said he still loves coaching, loves basketball, but he doesn't like how the game is gone. It's been a long season already. Miami lost to Mount St. Mary's this year. That's not ever a good loss for them. Veteran assistant coach Bill Courtney, BC will take over for the rest of the year. That Final Four run was not too long ago. They earned a 5 seed, then knocked off Indiana, knocked off Houston, knocked off Texas, en route to the Final Four. Before going to Miami, he was at George Mason, where again, our special correspondent often, Following Campbell, went there. So I've got a chance to spend a lot of time with Coach L. He was the 6th long-term coach in the ACC to step down. Roy Williams from North Carolina, Coach K at Duke, Mike Bray, Jim Boeheim, Tony Bennett. A lot of guys are leaving. So I wanted to give extended time to our special guest, Coach Brown. Not only would I like for your thoughts on Coach L leaving, but you're in the belly of the beast. You're dealing with all of this. Share your thoughts on the direction of college basketball in your eyes. What do you think, Coach Brown?
Well, first, Coach Larranaga, he had an amazing career. That improbable run to the Final Four. That was crazy. Like I would never forget that. Although I feel like I was a part of that. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I was right there on campus. And most DMV guys felt that way. So that's a run. I mean, it felt like it was a couple of years ago. And that's I will never forget that. Again, I felt for whatever reason, I myself and the whole DMV family, we felt a part of that. Great coach, great guy. I met him. I met him and spoke with him a couple of times, and he's a regular person. He's down to earth, and you like to meet people like that, especially people in the business and colleagues that's kind of you look up to, and you hear people say you never want to meet guys that you admire, but he's one that that you definitely he is who everybody say he is.
Okay.
So I want to congratulate him on a great career, and man, again, that Final Four run that I felt a part of that. You can hear it in my voice, like I felt a part of that.
All right. Will, your teammate played. You went through the process because we included the team in everybody's recruiting process. When you heard Coach L was stepping down and the reasons why he was stepping down, any thoughts come to mind?
A man who knows he's ready to call it quits. That man is pretty aligned with himself. I'm happy that he could sit down and quit himself. I'm sure nothing quitted him. I'm happy nothing fired him. I'm happy that, hey, I'm leaving on my terms, and that we don't all get that same option. So that's great for him. Like Sean said, amazing resume. But most importantly, he was a great coach and a great person. I remember when in his junior year, Fowler already signed, and he would show up to games and he would say up to all of us. He would talk to us like we're all going to George Mason with him. Hey, well, how's it going, man? Da 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 da. How's everything? Hey,
Yes, he did know your name.
That's what I was gonna say. He does know your name. That's crazy.
Had no reason to, had no reason to know my name. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even close to D1 caliber. He don't even. Hey, well, how's it going? School doing well? Da 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 da. How's your parents doing? Da 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 da. And it's stuff like that. And I even remember. It could be roughly, but he came and he spoke to us on like a Saturday, and he wanted to talk to the whole team. And he talked to all of us as we were one of his coaches, And as I got older, I've learned that the name coach, when I call you coach, is as respectful as calling you, Mr. or Sir, or it's higher up that day. If I'm 38 years old and I'm still calling you coach, I hold you in very high regard. Very high regard. And he was one of those guys that even if he didn't coach me, he'd be, hey, Coach L, how's it going, man? How you doing? Good, well, da 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 da. But yeah, they lost an amazing leader, an amazing person, and I hope, he can still coach. I hope he doesn't hang it up completely because he has a ton of knowledge. And the guy is just an amazing A1 person. And it's unfortunate that the NCAA pushed him out based on, the way things are going on with NIL. But they were lucky to even have him. So congrats on the next what's going on in the next steps for you, coach, man. Congratulations.
All right. Mike King, you are my college guy too. You saw Coach L step down and you saw the reasons why he stepped down. He was very forthright with it. Any thoughts from your end, sir?
I mean, it's just kind of sad. You look at when he started coaching, it was about coaching. And now it's about how much money and dealing with agents and like nonsense. I look at when Gary didn't want to do AAU stuff. Gary Williams didn't want to do the AAU game. So he was out as a national champ. He was out because I'm not begging a 16-year-old. I'm not going to the – and now it's so much further. Like now you get this story and it's like I got $1 million to get in the door. That's what Gary didn't retire that long ago. Urgent was the bum that followed Gary. That just happened. So like we're talking like this thing has gone from like 0 to 7 billion in like a couple of years, and it's we get into on the podcast, we get into all like the NIL and the money, but then there's like the human side of it and like the coaches who thought they were coaching. They got into it as to coach, but now you're more playing the role of agent or equally the role of agent to coach, and it just seems like that job seems so much beyond what you could possibly imagine it is when you get into it. Now it's the coach, the agent, the CEO, the this, the that, and the other. And I feel bad for the old heads who now they're in this new world. Like they've got iPhones, and before that they had computers that took up the size of the room. And now they got an iPhone. Here you go, figure it out. And it's got to be tough.
All right. So fans, Coach Brown, not only was he a head men's college coach, he was also a head women's college coach. You have seen this evolution. You were one of the people who were very helpful throughout my doctoral journey. A lot of encouragement as I'm dealing with both sides in terms of academic and athletics. What's it like coaching now with all of these things going on? Enlighten our audience on the current experience, if you can.
Well, I have my mentor is actually a Division One guy. I know coaches from from Division One, Division Two, Division Three, and in some way we're all dealing with the same thing. It's crazy. Mr. Mike King made he made a statement. He said, folks we got into this as coaches, and now we're kind of like agents, GMs, and all of that. Even our game down to the D3 game, it's changing, and it's changing really quick. And if if you're not down with a lot of these new rules and changes, then you'll get lost, and you'll have a pretty bad recruiting season in short notice. For us, as far as the D3 game, what we're seeing is just a lot of movement. The NIL stuff hadn't kicked in quite on our level yet. It's coming, but we just see a lot of turnover and a lot of movement because now young men and young women can legally transfer wherever, whenever they want. Yes, they have to still be degree seeking, and they have to have certain amount of credits, but for the most part, they can just kind of get up and go. And that's tough. That's tough. You can't coach as hard as you may have in the past. You gotta walk around eggshells around these kids. And it's tough. It's tough because some of these kids need to be coached hard. And when you're afraid to coach a kid hard and they're missing assignments, then there's a snowball effect because little things affect turn into big things. So
yeah. So Coach, I like to follow up on that point. One of the things I talked about as I was doing research for this is coaching. Yeah. And what I have found and what coaches have told me on all levels, and one coach in particular, award-winning coach, said, I can't coach anymore. I can only manage, because if I make you uncomfortable, you will leave me. So I can't make them, in terms of progression, grow as much as I did before. Any thoughts to that comment? Would you agree or disagree with that statement?
Oh, I totally agree. That's along the same what I'm talking about. As humans and as professionals, we don't grow unless we get into an uncomfortable space. We gotta get into an uncomfortable space and fail sometimes and figure it out. But if we never get to that space where the kid gets uncomfortable, we push them to that line, then how can they grow? How can they grow? And that's we always take a business approach, a business model in our program, and growing our kids. But yes, man, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're sometimes we're afraid to make kids uncomfortable because they may go upstairs to the president. Their parents might call or text. We it's a lot. It's a lot. Or they may leave after the semester.
Yes. Mike, I want you to close this out. Listening to what Coach Brown and I talked about from the athletic standpoint, would you agree or disagree from the academic standpoint in terms of, can you really, quote, teach hard, or do you kind of not do it for the sake of a kid being uncomfortable with the struggle of higher level learning? What would you say in your role?
I mean, I kind of agree with what everyone's been saying. I just think when it comes to Yeah, the coach should be able to coach the kids hard. Should be able to, when it comes to academics, take the kid, get the kids to take classes that's going to help them succeed after they're done. But it's also tough because kids are only going to be there for a year and then go somewhere else. And then how are you going to navigate that? So here's the schedule, but I don't know what school you're going to go to. They might have the program. It's like we're in the wild, wild west. The rules are being written as we speak.
All right, that's a good way to end this segment. So when we get back in segment 3, we're going to introduce you to some of the women's programs you need to follow, just as we did in the NBA. We'll be right back on the Hot Coaches Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project and author of Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. This book is your key to unlocking the secrets of being a successful student athlete. Drawing from my 30-year career as a teacher and coach, this instructional guide offers a unique perspective on achieving success in both academics and athletics. With over 15 personal stories and insightful antidotes, Finding the Balance is a must-read for student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators. Visit www.ckasaveproject.org to get your copy and start finding the balance today. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 3. Let's get to the women's game. Net rankings: South Carolina, Texas, UConn, Kansas State, and Notre Dame. Top 5 bid majors: Richmond, Harvard, St. Joe's, South Dakota State, and George Mason keeps hanging around. Some teams to watch this coming week: Michigan State, Virginia Tech, and Portland. But let's get to our story of the week. Let's meet the teams. Notre Dame. I want to introduce you to Notre Dame. Okay, the ACC is the Fighting Irish's to lose. They have a National Player of the Year candidate in Hannah Hidalgo, and perhaps one of the best backcourts in the country with Hidalgo, Olivia Miles, and Sonia Crichton. And Notre Dame's going to win a lot. Notre Dame's going to win a lot. Kansas State, Big 12. The Wildcats, preseason picked by the coaches to win. They also have one of the best players in the country in center, Ayoka Lee. She's averaging 17 points a game, shooting 65% from the field. The Big 12 is definitely on notice. And finally, let's introduce you to South Carolina. New group of players, still winning. They are defending national champions. Their only loss was to UCLA. They don't have one main scoring threat. They've got 7 players averaging 7 to 11 points a game, which makes it very, very hard to guard. Cotton Man, looking at those 3 teams and any other team, because we didn't mention USC, anything catch your eye in the women's game, sir?
Well, I'm always going to stand for Juju, man. A big Juju fan for the last couple of years. So they can't say
you introduced me to Juju. You did.
We've been on here for a couple of years now. But let's talk about Audie Crooks. Audie Crooks from Iowa State. She is a whole dog. She averages 22.8, and she lost 40 pounds to get better. She was averaging more minutes this year for losing weight. She's averaging 3 points a game. She's averaging 1 or 2 more rebounds a game, and she just overall just looks healthier. Her field goal percentage has went up already 4 points to 61%. She's killing. And again, she's not on like a great team. It's teams like 9-5 right now. But look out. She's a big name. And she might be a little better than Ayoka Lee, who just might be just a little better right there in that conference for us. So when they battle to each other, I need to catch that one. For sure.
All right. Again, Coach Brown, you were a former women's coach as well. Anything catch your eye this year?
Well, like Cotton said, USC. I'm a big Juju guy, but I'm gonna go a different direction, man. Tennessee. I'm not sure if y'all following what's going on there, but there's a young lady who coached in the same league that I did when I was the head coach at Frostburg and on a D2 level. They won a national championship, and then she got a Division I head coaching job at Marshall. In 1 year, she had 20 something wins, and then in 1 year, and then she moved on to Tennessee. So that number one, it was a big time hire for Tennessee to step out there and go get who they thought was their gal and who they thought was the best coach in the nation. Kim Caldwell. She's a really good coach. Tennessee is I'm not going to say they're back, but they are running through all the teams that they play. They play a very unique style. They're going to be full court. They're going to be in your face, and they're going to come after you for 40 minutes. Even if they're up 40 and there's 30 seconds left, they're coming after you. So that's somebody to keep an eye on. That Tennessee program. Again, I'm not going to say they're back, but I'm going to tell you they're going to be an interesting watch, and it's interesting to see how that style translate to big time Division I basketball. But yes, Caldwell, she's a really, really, really good coach, and you guys should give Tennessee a look.
Okay, Mike, any thoughts on the women's game? We introduced some teams to some folks. Anybody you think we should follow?
And I always focus on the next star. So for me, it's Sarah Strong. When they played USC, she was the best player on the court. I mean, she filled up. She had what, five steals, 5 assists, 13 rebounds, 27 points. So all the talk could be about Paige and Kiki and Juju, but the best player on that court was 17, 18 years old, and it was Sarah Strong. So UConn's going to be in good hands for the near future, like they always are. She looks great.
All right, and selfishly, Kayomi McMillan from Rutgers. She's family. Her mom is a Paint Branch grad. When I was at Banneker, she was a little kid running around, and I saw her mom at back to school night, and I was like, "Hey, how's your kid doing?" "Oh, she's good, Coach Adams." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And Will tell you, I'm indifferent about everything. And then I saw her playing with the boys, and it took me all the way back to players like Rochelle Coleman, who helped Paint Branch win a state championship. And then again, we move around and so forth, and we keep touch because I'm coach, and sometimes you bump into folks, and that's how Coach Brown and I still hang out a little bit. Sometimes Coach is just out, and hey, good to see you. And I just kept hearing her name. And now she's at Rutgers. She's getting the highlights on SportsCenter. And I'm still that guy who saw her in the hallway saying, make sure you go to class. And she's a great student, great kid. So I'm rooting for Rutgers basketball to go really far because I'm just a fan of one of my former students whose kid is doing well. And let's just go get them. All right. So as we wrap up, Happy New Year to everybody. Enjoy yourself. Don't be Georgia football, and make sure you get a designated driver to go home. And on behalf of our Cavalcade of Stars, yes, I did a little needle on Georgia. I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.